to Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy helping individuals, business owners, and corporate sales personnel achieve rapid, sustainable growth. And the author of the book Reprogramming Your Subconscious Mind. Dr. Joseph Drolshagen.
Great to be here with you, Daniel.
Welcome, Dr. Joseph, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
I can tell you, I spent 40 years studying. I come from a struggling family and stuff, and I got in my 20s, and I just repeated those same patterns, even though I didn't want to. And my whole adult life has been about understanding what's causing that and what can I do about it. And I've tried so many different avenues, and through hap chance and things like that, I was a guinea pig for all the works I do today. And so as I started going through that, and it took decades to start learning, understanding things. And really it came down to that subconscious, that programming in the subconscious mind. And what that is there's like a motherboard in there that hosts all of our patterns, our paradigms, our habits, our experiences, even experiences we don't have ourselves, but somebody tells us about, gets programmed in there. And that's the voice we hear in our head. But more critical to our results is that programming is what triggers brain waves to the actions we take or we don't take. So I ended up in a corporate sales career from the ground floor up to a vice president of sales. And I went from years of traveling 3,000 to 5,000 miles every single week, Daniel, trying to cover ground and build territories, and I was barely scraping by doing it. I had anxiety constantly that I was going to lose my position, and it impacted my family life. And as I went forward through this process and started understanding these tools of the subconscious and how powerful that is towards our results, then I started being able to put things together. And I didn't have a roadmap to do it in. I was making it up as I was going, and ended up developing this SMT method, which is subconscious mindset training, that ended up helping me to really rapidly grow from barely scraping by to landing $18 million, $22 million, the highest $25 million year over year contracts in what I was doing. And then once I get onto sales leadership roles, I started utilizing these same tools with my the people I manage, and helping and watching them elevate up that. And then the last organization I worked for, I got a 28-year career in corporate America. The last organization I worked for got themselves in bankruptcy, and I was part of the team to pull them out of that. And once we got new owners is when I decided, I already had certifications. I had my doctorate degree, all that. And it was like, okay, now I'm stepping out. Now I want to step out and help small business owners. I want to help people in their lives. So my wheelhouse is business owners, rapid growth, and still gain more freedom of time, but also even any personal development, this program works for, and shifting that programming opens up doors of opportunities. So it can be relationships, it can be finances, it can be, home stresses and things like that it helps to reprogram that subconscious. And the last thing I'll say on is what I've learned is our perceptions determine our results. We know that. And we also know that all the reports and studies that there's 85 to 95% of the results we experience are determined by that subconscious programming. So we can do all kinds of other things to try to change and get better results. And a lot of people will go logical and they'll start the A/B plans and all the goals and to-do actions and all of that. And they'll go harder and harder and harder trying to get it. And they'll actually gain less and less ground towards what they really want to achieve. The SMT method identifies what that is, has the tools to shift that. And in doing so, we shift the perception, which then shifts what we experience in our results.
And Dr. Joseph, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you.
That's
Hoping,
good.
yes, hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. So tell us, What makes the SMT method fundamentally different from other subconscious reprogramming techniques like affirmations or visualization, and why does it lead to faster results?
Yeah, and here's one of the things is I've taken a lot of other programs on my way up to developing this and everything else, and I learned a lot, but I never really got the results that I was so told I could expect to get. And I couldn't figure out why. And so every time I'd walk away and think, man, there must be something the matter with me. As I did that, a lot of coaching, especially business growth coaching, is it a locked model, right? And you go through
Mhm.
the model, and what happens with that is when you come into the model, you have to contort yourself to fit that model. That's why you hear people going through those growth programs, and they don't like what they're doing, they don't align with what they're doing, but they're trying to do all this stuff to get the results. The SMT method is specifically and scientifically designed where there's a model, but it's fluid to meet people where they're coming in from. So it's really based, another way to say that is it's really based on the uniqueness of the individuals. Throughout the entire program, I have hundreds of clients, and not two of them are following the same process. So, really, what I do with the SMT method, the way it applies, is instead of telling people what I did and them going out and doing it, which doesn't work anyways, it's already been proven that less than 1% of the people following programs like that ever achieve anywhere near the results the person who put it together did. So, what I do with the SMT method is I help people develop their roadmap, develop their success plan, and then once we're done working together, whether they, whatever they endeavor or business adventure they take on or go into, they have their roadmap there that'll work over and over and over again. That's where I stand out from a lot of other coaching programs and growth coach programs.
Over and over and over again. And Dr. Joseph, I want the 25 million contract too, as was you stated while ago. So, in your model, what does reprogramming and subconscious actually entail on neurological level? Is it about creating a new neural pathways or silencing the inner critic or something else?
It is shifting the programming, which shifts then, excuse me, our neurological pathways in doing so. And the way I built this program is we come out of the gate developing what the SMT method refers to as a dynamic vision. So we set the whole goals thing aside. We set the whole, a lot of our programming is if something isn't working, then we got to come up with the strategy. We got to go into our logical mind and figure it out and all this stuff and everything else. In the SMT method, what we do is we develop a dynamic vision that's unique to that individual. And then even as we're developing that vision, everything in the program is geared to tap up against that programming that's causing limitation or making it harder or taking more time. And so as we program, as we bump up against that, then we have the tools where we can actually shift that programming very rapidly. And in doing so, again, we shift our perceptions, which then shift our results. So every time we identify something and shift it, that opens up doors, opportunities to gain more quicker without as much effort. And then as we go into that, now we have the vision. And what we do is we use that vision as our reality. We no longer live consistently through our logical mind to figure out how we're going to get to that level. We just start marching to that. And then the rest of the program is aligning to move from where somebody is at to where they want to be, where that at in that vision. And that's because here's one of the things that's not talked about very much. If you want to be a successful business owner and build an empire, do whatever you want to do with the business, your business, you have to come from that place of being that person before you can ever achieve it on the outside. So as we identify the programming and shift the programming, we start moving forward through there, and then we start developing systems of accelerating habits that are unique to the individual. So we're developing things that light you up, things you enjoy doing, like all of those things. So you spend more time, and then we find more time to spend in doing those things. But again, as we're doing them, once you start shifting the programming and you're doing things that light you up, you don't need near as much time to achieve the ground on that, which is how I'm able to help clients rapidly grow their revenues.
Dr. Joseph, a key challenge is getting past the conscious mind's skepticism. How does the SMT method effectively bypass the critical factor to install a new belief directly into the subconscious?
Yeah, the conscious thing that you said there about, people not believing it or too good to be true or things like that, it's actually coming from programming.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so here's the thing, when I'm talking to somebody, it took me a long time because I want to help everybody with this. And the time I started doing this and had this thing, I want to help everybody. But I found what I do isn't necessarily for those who need it as much as those who want it. So I have one of the testimonials I have from a client, I got video and everything, is they went from $7.5 million as a 13-year high in business, and in 12 months toppled over $22 million. And during that year of growth was the only year in their adult life where they took 5 weeks of vacation during that year of growth. Now, some people will hear that and they'll go, "That's unrealistic. That's BS, or that can't happen." And for those people, it can't happen, and it never will happen. So what I tell people, how I determine who I can help and who I can't, is, does the person I'm talking to have a beginner mindset? And what I mean by that is we all run into people all day long that go, "I know, I know, I know, I know, I know." And you can't do anything for that person. They're stuck in what they know. So what I tell people, a beginner mindset is looking at something and say, "What can I take from this and add to what I already know?" That will start opening up doorways. And so even back in the when we're developing that vision, Daniel, I'm helping people expand that vision further than what they can think of. And then getting them excited about that. And then right in doing that, when we shift in those patterns, all of a sudden things will start showing up out of the blue, coincidences, whatever it is, and things start rolling that way without adding exhaustive effort.
Dr. Joseph, on the mechanics and practical application, can you walk us through the core actionable steps of the SMNT method, and what does a 10-minute a daily practice actually look and feel like?
Yeah, so really, I mean, there's two parts. There's two different programs within the SMT method. Each of them has like 12 modules to them. So they'll walk through every step we go through. But again, we start with the vision. Once we have the vision, we start stepping into actions to open up that vision. As we're developing the vision, we bump into, excuse me, we bump into programming. And then, like I said, we have tools to shift that. And then, even as we're stepping into it, my clients will run into things, and it's all the programming. And what they learn to do very quickly is to celebrate that awareness of that pattern, paradigm, belief system, whatever it is that's causing them, to slow down and not achieve the pace that they want to achieve at. And so then we can shift that. And in doing so, it immediately opens up that other avenue. So one of the other ones I told you about is developing systems of accelerating habits. When we're bridging that gap, we start putting things down. Like I'll give you an example, Daniel. You ever see somebody
Yes.
do a social media live, like a Facebook live, and you can
Mm-hmm.
tell they don't like to be in there? They feel awkward, out of place.
Yes,
We all
definitely. Yes.
can, right? And how long do
Uh-huh.
you watch that person's video?
Not even a minute,
Yeah,
probably.
I feel bad for the person. And so
Hmm.
so that's somebody that's outside of their alignment place when they're doing those things. So what I will tell my client who does things like that, like, okay, stop doing that. But then you would see other people doing lives, and it's like somebody put the spotlight on and they came to life, right?
Hmm.
They just flow and they got energy and excitement and things like that. And those people should be doing those things. So what I do is help my clients align their actions to their uniqueness again. So they're doing things that fit for them.
That'd be interesting, Dr. Joseph. And how does the method help someone identify the original core belief that is the root of their surface level issue, like procrastination or financial struggle?
Yeah, like, okay, financial struggle is a big one in the world, with so many people are familiar with it and stuff. The procrastination, that's just how it plays out. That's not a
Mm,
core thing. It's just how the conditioning plays out, because again, it triggers the brain waves to the actions we take or don't take, depending on our programming. So if you have like financial crisis programming, I did, you know, uh, if you have that kind of programming, then it's I'll say it's almost impossible to take actions that are going to lead to building wealth and stuff because that programming plays over and over and it's playing based on that limitation. And so if all of a sudden you start seeing abundance, that's why we see people who win the lottery and within a very short period of time they're broke, they're in jail, they're rehab, they're divorced, all these things happen to them and stuff because they haven't shifted the programming to match with the amount of wealth that they've gained. So they
okay.
play those same patterns and all of a sudden they just burn through that and start doing things if they wouldn't have won it, they would have never done anyways. So there's the
Definitely.
core beliefs, the core, like I said, patterns, paradigms, belief systems, experiences, all of that stuff that's in the programming. And then there's the way it plays out. Procrastination is a big one. Excessive, going 150 miles an hour, working exhaustively, like all those things are just characteristics of how the programming plays out. So people are, and this is a conditioning that most people can understand. We are conditioned that if you want something, you got to be willing to sacrifice your life in order to get that. And then at some point out there, you'll have that and get to enjoy it. Right. But what
Right.
I've been able to prove in my life and hundreds of clients I've worked with is you can have that joy right now. You can have that freedom right now while you're building. Building your business doesn't have to be a grind. It can be exciting. Everybody who goes into business, they go into business because they're excited about what it is the impact they're going to have, what they're going to do, how the products they're going to sell, like all of that stuff builds the excitement. But I'd even say 3-5 months into it, I've talked to business owners who are ready to just close it. It's so much harder than they thought. But it's not harder. It's that program that's driving it that makes it hard. So one of the first things I have to do to almost every business owner I work with is I have to get them to throttle back a little bit because they're so used to going 150 miles an hour, wearing all the hats, doing everything else, trying to get to that point when they can then enjoy life. And as I get them to throttle back, which also taps into programming. So you can see why now when I'm saying every part of the program taps into that program and it's causing the limitation. And then we shift that. And the way I'm able to do that with business owners is through developing that dynamic vision because we have to slow down a little bit, even just to think about what we want. Daniel, I come up against so many people, business owners, and I go, well, what do you want? So many people can't tell me what they truly want. They might want a $50 million business, but that's as far as it goes. They don't even know what that life would look like or anything else with that. So as we start getting clarity around the vision, it starts bringing those things up. And you have to slow down a little bit to take the time to do that.
Dr. Joseph, what is the most compelling success story or case study from your work that demonstrates the rapid growth promise in the title?
Boy, there's so many of them, Daniel. Even in my own life, people will say, man, why are you so energized or excited about what you do? And I tell them, because, I lived for so long not wanting to live. I went for so long in my life not wanting to live. So now that I have this spark and this excitement and I'm helping people, break barriers that I don't believe they would have broke without all the works I have done and everything, it's exciting to me. But I shared about the one client of mine that went from 7.5 to $20 million. I have a client of mine that was at a couple $1,000s when we met and we worked together for a year and a half. But we, her thing was the finances. She was didn't even have enough to pay her bills out in California. She was alone, didn't have a relationship in her life. She felt really lonely all the time and everything else. And within 3 months, she met the man that she's now engaged to and getting ready to get married to next year. Her business is now at 25 or 28, between 25 and $30,000 a month revenue that she's doing and has been doing for over a year and a half now. So when I see things like that happen and people going from that place of just really beat up by life and owning a business was, at the time I meet them, they're like, this is the worst thing I ever did. to it being successful and seeing them just light up and seeing them get back into life and seeing them get close again with their family and and active in the world and things like that and stuff. That every single time somebody does that, Daniel, like my clients have a breakthrough, I, it brings tears to my eyes. I mean, it's such an overwhelming blessing that I get to be a part of that in people's lives.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
Indeed. So, what is the most common form of resistance people can face when they try to reprogram a deeper seated belief? And what is your strategy to overcome it with SMT?
Yeah, I would tell anybody one thing, like I'll give a couple tools here. One thing, take some time and write down your vision. Write down what you want to experience in life. Look out 5 years from now, whatever it is. But what do you want life to look like? What do you want to be doing? How do you want your business to be doing? What do you want to do, in your health and well-being, your relationships, how big is your business? What kind of things are you doing? Are you traveling and enjoying life that way? Like get clarity around that, what that life looks like. The more clarity you have, the more power you have in bringing that to reality. And then as you're going through that, the other thing I would say is notice what you're noticing. Like
Hmm.
like somebody who's not doing 150 miles an hour, because so you got to slow down to do that as well. But you start noticing, like, I want the result. Why am I not doing this? Why do I keep procrastinating? That's a sign that you have conditioning playing out. If you the kind of person where you have money and you have all these great plans on how to build wealth with it, and all of a sudden it disappears because things keep coming up that to take it and stuff. There's conditioning going on there that's leading that. And if you start looking at what, I guess the big question there is, why am I not achieving what I want to achieve? And start noticing your thought patterns, start noticing the actions you're taking, start noticing if you're exhausting yourself, working crazy, long hours, 150 mile an hour, all that stuff. That's conditioning driving that.
Hmm. Interesting, Dr. Joseph. So, can the method be applied to heal old relationship wounds and create new healthy subconscious patterns for connection and intimacy?
Yes. And the really cool thing, what I really enjoy about the way this has all come together and everything is old school counseling. You'd have to go back to when the issue started, kind of they call it pull the skeletons out of the closet and things like that. With this, you don't have to do that. All we have to do is trace it to this is the pattern that's happening for this area. The pattern is that you get some money and all of a sudden it seems like it just floats away. That's a pattern right there. Fear, doubt, worry, living in that all the time. That's a pattern playing out leading to that. So all we got to do is identify that pattern there, which takes seconds. And once we identify it, then we can start shifting that and start opening up that other side. So if you're noticing your thoughts, if you're noticing when you go, when things that will lead you to where you want to be and the hesitation within you, that's programming.
Programming indeed. And Dr. Joseph, once a new belief is installed, what
Mhm.
does the maintenance look like? Is it
Great
one time
question.
fix? Yeah, so it's one time fix?
It's a build upon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like any muscle, right? We build it. And so once we've identified it, then we start making the shift so we can see some change, but we continue building that programming as we're going forward. So when I first came out with this as the SMT method and started using it in that mode, I would work with people for 9 months and get the scale and everything happening, and then it'd be like, okay, you're ready to go. You need anything else? Call me, stuff like that, and people will go out. And I found in a few months they would start kind of going backwards a little bit, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized there was nothing where I move into a support role for people so they can really lock all this stuff in. So we take 12 weeks, we learn the tools and how to implement them and start unblocking some of the blocks and shifting programming and things like that. And now we have the tools, we have experience with them. Clients have seen shifts in their life happen. Now we go into a 6 month mode where it's really about the ramp. It's all about, okay, now how do we implement these into your specific business and start moving forward with these things? And then instead of stopping, now I do another 3 months or 90 days of more where I start playing more of a support role to my clients, and they are carrying that so that we're both comfortable that when we're done now in after that period, they have the comfort. They've run into blocks with it, doing it on their own. They've had me there right alongside them for support and things like that. And the other thing I'll tell you, Danielle, is I partner with every client I work with. So the way people work with me is I have skin in the game right along with them. I don't take any ownership of their business and everything, but we set it up in a way where I'm a partner to them in their growth.
Dr. Joseph, what would you say to the person who believe this is just woo or placebo? How did you address the science behind the method?
It's all based on science. It's all based on the neuroplasticity of the brain. It's all based on the what we know of the subconscious and stuff and the power of the subconscious, which is I don't want to say it's new, but you don't hear about that. And when you hear about mindset, we don't hear about a lot about the programming within the subconscious mind. But there is science behind it all. I mean, anybody can look up, research studies, things like that on 85 to 95% of the results we experience in our life are attributed to the programming in the subconscious.
Hmm. Dr. Joseph, before we wrap up our discussion for
Mhm.
today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101, and music 101 are fourth season, science 101, sex 101
Wow.
in second season of my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So,
Nice.
Dr. Joseph,
Yeah,
if you,
if I could, I'd like to offer something I don't normally offer, but I think it'd be a delight to your audience.
yes, definitely. Go ahead.
Anybody who's listening to this that whether you get something out of it or whether you think it's complete BS, I'd love to set up a call with you. I have a link that I'll give you in a second here where we can just talk about things. Or if you're stuck in some area of your business, and I can help you in a brief call to figure out what that is so you can have something to start working on to removing that. I love to do that. And here's what I'm going to do. So the link to schedule with me is coachwithjoey.com. And Daniel, for your
Mhm.
audience, the first few people to schedule those calls, I'm going to give a free copy of my book to those people.
Yes, definitely. Please do. And will be my last question, Dr. Joseph. If you could have every reader take away and apply just one principle or practice from your book, what would it be, and why is it that the key unlocking the rapid growth?
Yeah, I would say the one thing is to the understanding that the results you're having, if your business isn't where you want it to be, and you feel like you're working all kinds of hours and everything else, it's not your fault because it's not you doing it. It's that something in that programming that's working against what your desires are. So in identifying and shifting that, you open that up.
Definitely. And Dr. Joseph, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world once again. And can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Awesome.
Yes. So where do people reach you, Dr. Joseph?
Yeah, they
Can you
can
please?
reach me at coachwithjoey.com. And like I said, for the first three, whether they reach out to you or me, and I end up talking to them, I'll send them a free copy of the book.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Joseph, or Dr. Joseph Drolshagen, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come, and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Dr. Joseph, Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. This is awesome.
Modicon people, see you soon.